The film starts showing a special agent named Argyll, the title character, in a nightclub. There, Argyll went on a mission to arrest a beautiful terrorist, and this character was played by Dua Lipa. But before Argyll began his mission, he invited this stunning woman to dance first so he could trick her. Unfortunately, the woman terrorist already knew the purpose of Argyll's arrival, and after a short dance together, she ordered all her men to surround Argyll. However, Argyll didn't panic at all, and he then contacted his fellow hacker, Kira, to find a way out. Not long after, Kira immediately blew smoke in the room and a shootout ensued. Unfortunately, Argyll failed to catch his target because she managed to escape. Apart from that, Kira also suffered a serious gunshot wound, so Argyll immediately contacted the medical team, but there was no answer. At the same time, Argyll's superior told him to focus on catching the terrorist. Like it or not, Argyll was forced to leave Kira and return to chasing his target. In the middle of the chase action, Argyll asked for help from his colleague, Wyatt, to intercept the target. Then, while sipping his coffee, Wyatt carried out a very extraordinary action. After that, Argyll and Wyatt interrogated the terrorist to find out who the leader was, and unexpectedly, the leader was the Argyll's boss. When they were both still surprised by this fact, this female terrorist suddenly ended her own life with cyanide. The scene then moved forward to Ellie Conway's book reading event. Ellie Conway is an introverted spy novelist, and her book is titled Argyll. It turned out that all the scenes came from her novel. In this event, there were many people attending to ask about the continuation of her book, because since Ellie wrote the first Argyll novel, her name immediately became famous thanks to the very realistic story. Especially, some of the scenes in her novel actually came true. After Ellie was done with her event, she went home with her favorite cat called Alfie. At home, Ellie just spent her time finishing her 5th novel. The next day, Ellie got a call from her mother, who had just finished reading the manuscript of Ellie's 5th book. Here, Ellie's mother commented that the ending of the story was left hanging and not exciting. Hearing this, Ellie tried to write one more chapter so as not to be protested by Argyll's fans. However, the problem was that Ellie had run out of ideas. Feeling increasingly stuck, Ellie finally decided to visit her mother's house by train. When she was on the train, she sat opposite a dirty, messy man named Aidan Wilde. Surprisingly, the man admitted that he was a big fan of Ellie. But strangely, Ellie suddenly had a hallucination where this man in front of her changed became Argyll, a character in her novel. Then, when Ellie was confused, another train passenger approached her and asked for her autograph. Ellie happily accepted the request, but suddenly there was an unexpected incident. Apparently, the train Ellie was riding in had been infiltrated by secret agents who wanted to arrest her. Meanwhile, Aidan claimed to be a secret agent, but he was assigned to protect Ellie. As a protector, Aidan fought the gangster relentlessly because he never gave up and upheld his duty to protect Ellie. Aidan then asked Ellie to run away, but when they were about to change carriages, they were stopped by a man named Carlos who had come to the Argyll book reading event. And unexpectedly, this man was one of the special agents who was ordered to arrest Ellie. But luckily, Aidan moved very quickly and managed to save her. Long story short, Ellie woke up in a wooden house, and not long after, a handsome man appeared in front of her, and it turned out that the man was Aidan, who had cut his hair and beard. Aidan then explained what actually happened, and he had been watching Ellie for 5 years. Apart from that, he also said that the gangsters on the train came from the same organization as him, and that organization was known as the Division, which was led by a corrupt director named Ritter. According to Aidan, the Division agents were very confident that the novels written by Ellie could predict events in the real world. Therefore, they wanted to know the continuation of Ellie's latest novel so they could find out the future. Meanwhile, at the Division headquarters, Ritter was furious with the deputy director because he failed to catch Ellie. Here it was revealed that the director was looking for a flash drive containing the master file which holds all the evidence of his crimes. He suspected that the 5th Argyll novel would reveal the location of the flash disk. Because Ritter was annoyed with the performance of his subordinates, he took a long-barreled weapon and immediately killed his deputy. On the other hand, after Ellie understood the current situation, Aidan took her to London to look for a hacker named Bakunin. Aidan then told Ellie that he had made an appointment with the hacker to take the master file. But on the day of the meeting, Bakunin didn't show up at the location. Therefore, Aidan wanted to ask Ellie for help in finding the hacker's whereabouts. Moreover, all of the incidents had been written in Ellie's fourth novel, so it was very likely that Ellie could predict the following incident. Not long after, the two of them arrived at a small airport to board a special secret agent plane. At first, Ellie didn't want to go because she had a phobia of heights, but for her safety, she was forced to come with Aidan. Upon arrival in London, Aidan immediately took Ellie to the place where they should meet with Bakunin. Then, Aidan asked Ellie to write one more chapter to continue her unfinished novel, because at the end of the story, Ellie wrote that Argyll had met a hacker in London. Therefore, to find out what happened next, Ellie had to write again. Even though she was still confused, she tried to think about the continuation of the story. And after thinking for a long time, she remembered a scene in her novel when Argyll called Bakunin. Then, in his cell phone, there was a chip that could track the hacker's whereabouts. But unfortunately, Aidan had thrown away the cell phone in question. Hearing this carelessness, Ellie became increasingly doubtful that Aidan was an Argyll character in the real world. Not long after, Ellie got a brilliant idea, where they could find Bakunin's headquarters by hacking the satellite. So, without wasting any time, she ordered Aidan to use his hacking skills, and it didn't take long for him to finally find the headquarters. But at the same time, there was Ellie's fan who recorded the two of them and did a live stream. Unfortunately, Ritter and his group were already tapping all the CCTVs in that area. Shortly, Aidan and Ellie went to that location, and there, they found a secret hole under the wooden floor. After they opened it, there was a notebook belonging to Bakunin, which contained information about the master file. At the same time, Ritter ordered his men to go to Bakunin's place. Aidan, who was aware of their arrival, told Ellie to hide under the wooden floor, and when Ritter's men were looking for Ellie, Aidan appeared and immediately acted brutally. After struggling for quite a long time, Aidan finally managed to finish off all of Ritter's men. He then asked Ellie to leave as quickly as possible, but unfortunately some of Ritter's men came back. Before more enemies arrived, they went upstairs to the rooftop, and even though Ellie was afraid of heights, she was forced to jump with Aidan. A few moments later, they both arrived at the hiding place. There, Ellie immediately calmed herself down in the bathroom, but again, she hallucinated and saw Argyll in the mirror, and of course, she started to feel disturbed by his presence. On the other side, Aidan had time to talk to his boss to report on the progress of his mission, but Ellie overheard the conversation, and it turned out that Aidan intended to kill her. Ellie was worried about her life, so she ran away from there and then contacted her mother on a public telephone. She wanted to ask for her mother's help, so she was able to escape. The next day, Ellie immediately went to a hotel to meet her mother, who had just arrived in London. The mother tried to calm Ellie and told her not to panic. Ellie then asked if anyone had been following their family lately, but Ellie's mother had not yet had time to answer when Ellie's father suddenly arrived. Unexpectedly, it turned out that Ellie's father was Ritter. After calming Ellie down, Ritter started checking Ellie's things and found Bakunin's notebook. Luckily, Aidan arrived on time, and he threatened to kill Ritter if he didn't want to leave Ellie. Because he was cornered, Ritter finally revealed his true identity, that he was not Ellie's biological father. Not only that, Ellie's mother was also Ritter's subordinate. To be precise, Ellie's mother was Dr. Vogler, a hypnotist at the division. What a plot twist. Here, Ellie was just stunned when she found out this fact. Then Aidan swiftly shot Dr. Vogler and Ritter. After successfully paralyzing them both, Aidan asked Ellie to go, but they forgot to take Alfie. On the way, Aidan explained that he had no evil intentions. He actually wanted to protect Ellie from Ritter and his group. Long story short, Ellie and Aidan finally arrived in France, precisely at Aidan's boss's headquarters. Apparently, Aidan's boss was the former deputy director of the CIA, known as Alfred Solomon. Ellie was surprised because so far she had only heard his name in the news. Alfred then took Ellie for a walk while explaining why her writing could come true, and it turned out that all the stories in the novel are not predictions, but memories of her past. Here it was revealed that Ellie was once the best special agent of the division. Meanwhile, Argyle's character was actually herself. When Ellie heard that fact, she didn't believe it at all, because it was impossible for someone like her to ever be a member of the division. To convince her, Aiden deliberately threw a punch at her, and this is what happened. After that, Aiden told everything to Ellie. He told her that her real name was Rachel Kell. 5 years ago, Ellie experienced memory loss after carrying out a mission to retrieve the master file from Bakunin. But at that time, Ritter and Dr. Vogler managed to find her first. They then disguised themselves as Ellie's parents and brainwashed her with hypnosis techniques that Vogler mastered. While Ellie was being treated at the hospital, Dr. Vogler and Ritter kept indoctrinating her brain to tell them the location of the master file. However, that didn't work, so they finally convinced Ellie that she was a novel writer, hoping that she would write down her memories so they could find the location of the master file. Since then, Ellie began to write down all the memories in her subconscious mind. Due to her condition, she wrote the characters in the novel using different names. She even wrote herself as a male agent named Argyll. Meanwhile, she wrote Aiden's character as Wat, while Kira was her colleague who has died. On the other hand, the name of her beloved cat is Alfie, which was Alfred's nickname. When they were nostalgic, Alfred called them both. He then told Ellie and Aiden that the master file they were looking for was in Saudi Arabia, and the one who kept it was an informant named Saba al-Badr, who was nicknamed as the Keeper. Alfred also sent them to travel to Arabia, and Ellie had to use her real identity as Rachel. Shortly after traveling for quite a long time, they'd finally arrived at the Keeper's headquarters. While waiting for Saba's arrival, Aiden invited Ellie to dance. He also said that 5 years ago, they were lovers. And while they were dancing, Ellie began to remember her memories together with Aiden. However, an Arabian man suddenly approached them. Then, he told Ellie that Saba was ready to meet her, on the condition that Ellie had to go in there alone. Ellie tried to act like a secret agent, so that Saba wouldn't know that she had experienced memory loss. In the end, Saba, the Keeper, handed in the master file to Ellie. But when Ellie saw the data in it, her face suddenly changed. After that, Ellie immediately met Aiden to ask about the data she had just seen. Ellie hadn't time to get an answer, but they instead met Dr. Vogler and Carlos. Apparently, Dr. Vogler survived because she was wearing a bulletproof vest when she was shot by Aiden. Then, Dr. Vogler invited them to negotiate while drinking tea together. She also persuaded Ellie to reveal the contents of the master file and remember all the events in the past. While closing her eyes, a flashback appeared in Ellie's mind. In her memory, she remembered an incident when she met Bakunin at his base to take the master file. But because of the hacker not wanting to hand over the file, Ellie was forced to finish him off. Since then, Ellie has been included in the list of corrupt agents in the master file. What is even worse is that she has experienced memory loss due to being hit by an explosion at Bakunin's place. Of course, this made Aiden very angry, and he didn't believe that his girlfriend was Ritter's subordinate. However, when Aiden was about to attack the gangsters, he suddenly fell unconscious, likewise with Vogler and Ellie. Without their knowledge, Carlos apparently had put high-dose drugs into the tea they were drinking, and when Ellie woke up from her faint, she was already at the division headquarters. Here, Ritter asked her to tell him Alfred Solomon's whereabouts. However, Ellie said that she couldn't tell the location because she fell asleep on the way to Alfred's place. She then said she would persuade Aiden to reveal the truth because only he knew Alfred's whereabouts. When Ellie arrived at the interrogation's room, Ellie asked Aiden to tell about Alfred's headquarters, but Aiden didn't want to betray his own friend. Instead, Aiden persuaded Ellie not to be affected by Ritter's words, but unfortunately, Ellie actually took a gun and shot Aiden sadistically. Everyone there was shocked by Ellie's actions, even though she was tricking Ritter so that he thought that she was on the division's side. Therefore, Ellie also had to pretend not to care when Ritter threatened to kill her beloved cat if she didn't obey his orders as director. Not long after, Aiden started to wake up from his fainting because it turned out that Ellie had deliberately shot him in a non-vital part of the body, so this man was able to survive. Then, without further ado, Aiden immediately finished off the division agents brutally. Aiden then injected an adrenaline serum so he could be more brutalized. Meanwhile, Ellie pretended to be tracking Alfred's base, but actually, she was sending all of the master file's data. Seeing that, Ritter and Vogler felt betrayed, and finally, a fistfight broke out. After paralyzing them both, Ellie immediately took Alfie to the weapons room. Apparently, Aiden also ran to the same room. There, Aiden expressed his anger because he had been shot. As a result, Ellie explained that she was still on Aiden's side and had no intention of killing him. After forgiving each other, they both took weapons and decided to fight together. Because they both have strong power, they slaughtered their enemies while dancing and performing epic acrobatic movements. But unfortunately, Ritter had many troops who didn't stop coming and trying to finish off these two special agents. Finally, Ellie invited Aiden to escape through the ventilation shaft. Luckily, Ellie was able to spill oil on this place so that their enemies stopped attacking them. Ellie then remembered one of the moments where she had won an ice skating competition, and thanks to her memory, Ellie got a brilliant idea. She then stuck a knife in her shoe and immediately slaughtered Ritter's men while sliding over a puddle of oil. When all the division members were dead, now Ellie had to face Carlos. Even though Carlos is Ritter's strongest man, Ellie is still much stronger and more brutal. After successfully finishing Carlos, Ellie and Aiden went to the control room. There, they sent the master file to Alfred again, because previously, Ritter had cancelled it. However, their efforts did not go smoothly because Ritter, who was still alive, came and pointed his gun at them. Luckily, Alfie, the cat, lunged at Ritter and scratched his face. When this happened, it gave Aiden the opportunity to shoot and kill Ritter. Unfortunately, Ritter's eyes had been destroyed by Alfie's scratches, even though his eyes were really needed to access the computer and complete the delivery of the master file. Like it or not, they both had to find another way. And when they managed to get out, they were shocked because it turned out that all this time, they were on a ship. Ellie then continued the process of sending the master file using the ship's satellite, but Vogler didn't just stay silent. She appeared with a music box that was able to control human minds, especially since she had used it when brainwashing Ellie 5 years ago. Of course, Vogler told Ellie to finish off Aiden. Even though Aiden was heavily attacked, he couldn't bear to fight his own girlfriend. He gave up and was ready to die at Ellie's hands. When Aiden almost died, suddenly someone attacked Dr. Vogler. It turned out that someone who hit Vogler was Kira. She managed to survive a gunshot wound because the bullet didn't hit her heart. But at that time, Ellie told her to hide when she found out that Ritter had misused his position in the division. After reminiscing for a moment, Ellie continued the process of sending the master file. Then they left with the boat and also destroyed the ship. Returning from the mission, Ellie chose to return to being a writer and was finally able to complete his 5th book. At the novel launch event, Ellie explained that the story ended with a happy ending, because Argyll and Wyatt managed to escape from the division and Alfred received an award from the CIA. Meanwhile, Kira decided to work in the technology sector. At the end of the question and answer session, there was a long-haired man who appeared in front of Ellie, and unexpectedly, his face was very similar to the character Argyll in the novel. It turned out that the Argyll figure in Ellie's book was indeed real. Then, at the end of the film, we are shown a young Argyll who was working as a barista. Then, a man approached him and gave him a gun. Apparently, the man came from a spy organization called Kingsman, and he wanted to recruit Argyll to become a member of Kingsman. Then, the movie ended. Interestingly, our film will have a sequel related to the Kingsman universe. Of course, the story will be even more exciting and full of adrenaline.